Today I'd like to continue our journey through the book of Numbers. We're into chapter 34 of the book of Numbers. We've been talking about the boundaries of the new land. In the book of Numbers, the Jewish people have been progressing from Egypt, and now they really are at the cusp of entering into the promised land. And so they're establishing, well, what are going to be the boundaries of this promised land naturally? So in the south, it's going to be the desert of Zin, and that will be right along the border with Edom. In the east, it will be the end of the Salt Sea along the Jordan and along the Sea of Chinnereth or Lake Galilee to Seraphim. So that will be the eastern border. The west will be the Great Sea, the Mediterranean. And in the north from Mount Hor, which is a different Mount Hor from where Aaron died, to Hazarenim. So these boundaries now are established. They're given to Moses. Moses shares them with the people. So these are the boundaries that sometimes we hear even today people speaking of the biblical Israel. These would be the boundaries that they would consider. So God tells Moses now which person to pick from each tribe to be involved now with the apportioning of the land. So the land is going to be by tribe. So the person from each tribe will kind of be the representative to head up that tribe in terms of the land and letting everybody in the tribe know, well, this is your land, these are the boundaries, this is where you should be. The tribes of Reuben and Gad and half of the tribe of Manasseh are excluded because they already have their land, and that's on the eastern side of the Jordan. So that land has already been established because basically they requested that land, and God granted the request through Moses. Now in chapter 35, we see that the Lord now instructs Moses to give 48 cities to the Levites. Six would be what we call cities of asylum. And cities of asylum were established for people who have committed a homicide, but they kind of didn't do it intentionally. It was kind of an accidental situation. And the thought would be that maybe they could be taken and maybe they could be hurt and they could be harmed by somebody seeking revenge. And later on, it would be found out that they were innocent, that this was not an intentional act on their part. So these cities of asylum were established to kind of give them help in this type of situation, which you can understand. Um, the Levites would be allotted land around the cities, and the land would be 2,000 cubits in diameter. And these would be lands that would be good for pasturing their flocks. So they were given certain cities, but then they were given lands because naturally they're going to have flocks, and the flocks have to have somewhere to graze. So these grazing areas would be established around the cities, and they could be for the Levites, who would not have a particular area of their own, because naturally the Levites are involved with the temple worship and offering sacrifices, and so they could not really have a specific land that would be their own, but these cities would be where they could live and they would have pasture land. So it kind of worked out well. And what's basically trying to be established here is a fair system for everyone that everyone could abide by, and people would know, well, where they're to go when they get into this promised land. Because here they are in the book of Numbers now, getting ready to go into the promised land, but they have to know, well, what part is mine? What part is for another tribe? We want to do this in kind of a fair way. In the six cities of asylum, those who have committed a homicide unintentionally, they can take refuge there, and the person must first be tried before someone takes revenge on them. So naturally, if somebody was upset and they felt, well, you killed my brother, you killed my sister, my father, my mother, they would want to get after them and do harm to them. And the thought would be, well, let's get all the circumstances, what actually happened here. Let's have a fair trial. Let's sit down and talk about it before we take any revenge. So in these cities of asylum, they would be safe from any harm. Um, Three of the cities would be beyond the Jordan, and 3 would be in Canaan. The cities will serve not only the Israelites, but also the resident or transient aliens among them. So again, we see here a great sense of fairness, because this is not just for the Israelites, but they're concerned about those who are aliens among them, who were residing with them, who were there for a while, who were helping out, and maybe something happened. Well, let's be fair to them as well. We're going to be fair to those in our own tribes, naturally, our own people, but let's be fair to them as well. It's the right thing to do. Any intentional murder, however, that intentional murder can be punished by death. So, two categories were, deliberately planned out intentional murder, and something that would be an accidental situation where you didn't really intend to harm or kill somebody, but that resulted. And so, we're going to deal with that on a different level. If someone kills another accidentally, they can take refuge in a city of asylum until the death of the high priest. If they leave the city of asylum before that time, they can be put to death by what we call an avenger of blood. So there they are in the city. The high priest is still alive. They shouldn't leave, but if the high priest leaves, then it's a different story, and they are protected. They can't be killed. If someone kills another, the evidence of more than one witness is needed to put that person to death. So again, the sense of fairness here. One witness, maybe that witness was wrong, inaccurate, didn't see it the proper way. So let's get at least, 2 witnesses would be the standard here. No indemnity can be accepted in the case of a murder. So if you murder someone, you can't say, well, I murdered them, so I'll give you this amount of dollars or this amount of sheep, or these types of goods to make up for it. You cannot do that. There's no indemnity there, because the land had been defiled by the blood that had been shed. And here you get into a very interesting concept that the land, in many ways, since it's the land that God has given, is a sacred land. And when blood has been shed on that land, that blood that then becomes defiled, it's like you're doing something against God, because this is God's land and it's special and precious to God. So you have violated that land. So that's why you must be held accountable for that. There can be no atonement for that, except by the shedding of blood of the person who committed the murder. That is the concept. So we do see here the acceptance of capital punishment, which, of course, later on as we evolved, we have said, well, wait a minute, maybe there is a better way to deal with this. Maybe lifetime imprisonment or some other situation would be a better way than the taking of another human life. And the sense, again, of the Lord dwelling in the land. But we also have the sense, as we reflect on it, of the forgiveness of God as well, and the mercy of God. So these all, of course, come into play. Um, and in a way, it sounds like someone who has committed murder has done something that has really attacked God. That God is the giver of life, God is the giver of land, God has given the special gift to the people, and now you are defiling that land. So next time, we'll journey a little bit further into chapter 36 of the book of Numbers, and we'll take a look at some of the property law situations here. So what we see very much here being established at this part of the book of Numbers is the sense of who gets what land, and trying to protect the innocent as much as possible, but also the sense of accountability if one has done something terrible, such as a murder. God bless.